So my name is David Fidowa. I am an inventor. I license my own products. I coach and teach other people to do the same. And so I wanted to help everybody out with a live Q&A and answer anybody's questions that they may have. Okay, cool. Sorry, I had chiming in here, so I wanted to check these questions as they come in. Well, and anybody else that has questions, if they'd like to post them in the question box, chat box, there's two different boxes to post them in. So do post any questions that you have. To get started, I always tell everybody a little bit about my backstory for those that don't know. I see we have some people in the group that I know pretty well, and so they've heard this before. So sorry for those that have heard it, but I have licensed 5 of my own products, and I'm currently getting royalties on those. And then I've coached over 170 people, 175 now, to license their own products. And so I've been in this business of licensing, innovation, patents. I understand how it works and how to get your product licensed. And I always half jokingly tell people I got good at licensing my own products, but I got great at coaching and teaching other people how to do, how to get their own products licensed, because it's, not just helping somebody through the nuts and bolts of how to get their product licensed, but it's I call it the nuts and bolts and head and heart. Nuts and bolts is what to do. The head and heart is kind of like the motivation, the focus, all the things that are outside of, all right, I build a sell sheet, all right, I call a company. It's the things that I think actually truly matter, because a lot of times, you can go on YouTube and figure out what to do, but it's making sure you as the individual have certainty in that process and moving forward. And that's what I'm very good at, helping people through the process of staying motivated and focused on the right things to actually close deals. And so do type in your questions as we get going. Usually I only get to the first half of the questions that come in. I try to do like a little hot seat at the end where I just do rapid fire and close out all the questions that we have. And so do post them if you've got them. Let's see here, jump over to my question box. Dave. So this question's from Ray. Dave, the way the economy is going, is it still a good time to invent new products? You bet it is. If yes, why? Ray, it's a great time to license products right now. One of the reasons, I know the variant with COVID and all that's going on right now, it makes it kind of puts things back into question. But what I'm seeing right now in the marketplace is retailers are asking for new products. So when they're asking for new products, that means that companies have to produce new products. So then they look to the submissions that they have and say, this is the best product that we've gotten. Let's go with this one. And so what I've seen was, last year, kind of the peak of all shutdown, companies were taking new products in, but they weren't licensing them. I had a new product that got submitted to a company in December of 19, and they came back right away and said, yes, we love this. We want to license it. We want to move forward. So we'd started discussions in January of 2020. As you know, kind of what happened in March 2020 is really when things started getting shut down. So we were kind of moving forward, and the company that I was working with, they wanted to actually have a deal signed by March. Well, when March finally came around, it was no deal to be signed, because a lot of that was based on they couldn't get pricing. They couldn't get buyers interested because everybody was scared, and there was a lot of stuff that was going on at the time. And so companies really kind of pushed off new innovation. And later I find out that retailers did too. Retailers, they were just like, we don't need new innovation because we're not meeting with anybody. We're just going to reorder everything we did last year. All right, great. And so when retailers push it off, then companies push it off. So then there's less licensing going on. So that happened in 2020. There's now a pent-up demand for new innovative products. The retailers are not saying we're reordering everything from 2019 that we did in 2020 all the way through 21 on into 22. They're just not doing that. And so they're looking at products and saying, all right, we need new innovation now. And so with that deal ended up closing then at the beginning of 2021, and is going on the shelf this month. And so it did get put on a pause, but new innovation, I'm seeing licensing deals signed all the time now. It's kind of getting back to what it was before, but there's these like caveats that happen, right? Because they don't know manufacturing costs, right? There's things that happen that kind of push an agenda that we as the inventors have absolutely no control over. So we have when we sign a deal, it's not as clean and clear as it used to be prior to 2020, or I guess prior to pandemic. And so that's why I say, like, licensing is still continuing to grow. There's more and more products getting licensed right now, but inventors just have to be on their feet and ready to move, because companies, they're like, all right, we need a new product, that one, let's go, let's get this thing in the game. And so inventors need to be ready to move when that moment does happen. So Ray, I hope that answers your question and helps you out on getting some information and insight into kind of what I'm seeing in the market. Obviously everybody has a different perspective. I have a unique perspective, having so many students out there pitching products. I get the opportunity to kind of get that information from multiple sources where it's not just me and my products. So I do hope that helps. If you have more questions, let me know. I want to slide over to our, this is being streamed on a couple different platforms, so I wanted to check to see that if they're getting those questions answered. Sorry, I'm going to be doing a little bit more clicking. One of my team members that usually handles my comment section that helps me, she just messaged me and said she's going into labor. So exciting, very exciting. But then that leaves me with a little bit more work to do on clicking around and finding my questions that come through. So I apologize if it's a little delayed. All right, cool. I wanted to give everybody a little bit of news. I did a inventor challenge in January, and it was a challenge that essentially laid out like, all right, we're all going to start at the same time, and we're all going to move through this process together. And I did a product myself, and I kind of showed everybody, like, this is my product, this is how I'm going to do it, this is how I'm going to do my research. And essentially that challenge was a over-the-shoulder camera watching me do it, and then it was very interactive with our small group that signed up for the challenge. And so that started in February 1st, and then we went through the challenge over an 8-week period, kind of going through the steps, and then eventually obviously pitching the product. And now I have that product, and I pitched it to quite a few companies, but now I have 2 companies that are interested and want to license the product. I have 1. So it's a very good thing. I'm pretty excited about it. And so that's one of the products that I have on the table, and wanted to, I guess I can't really share the product with you, which I wish I could, but I can't. And so when I get it licensed, I'll be able to share it with you. But it was very cool to do this whole group event, right? And I got everybody with me, and I'm showing the whole process. And then that product that I used in the group, I'm getting a licensing deal. I have another student. It's a competition, and so the student that actually won is also working towards a deal. Hasn't seen contracts yet, but has interest from multiple companies. So very cool little challenge that happened back at the beginning of the year, and we'll probably do another one here starting the beginning of next year. I don't know yet. We'll see. I liked it. I know a lot of people liked it. And so we'll see how that goes. Sorry, I'm doing more clicking around. Okay. Well, I guess we don't have too many people out there today. Or maybe I'm just doing it wrong because I don't have my team member here to help me find the questions. And so let me see here. I had a question from Christopher. Thank you for putting that in, Christopher. Can I modify an existing product with a new design element and use different material? Christopher, yes. So how that works, most products that are in the market are not patented. And so a lot of people are worried about the intellectual property aspect of it. Most licensing deals are actually modifications of existing products. And the way that I look at that is you have products that are, most licensing deals are made in evolution, not in revolution, right? So I get a lot of students or inventors that come to me and say, I've got this revolutionary new product, nothing like it in the market. Well, that's not usually where licensing deals happen. And so evolutionary products are products that already exist in the marketplace, and there's an evolution to it, right? There's an improvement or modification to an existing product to either add a benefit, change a material, keep it less expensive, whatever that benefit is, but it's evolutionary, not revolutionary, that typically get licensed. And so, Christopher, a lot of the time that's kind of how it works, is most products are existing products in the marketplace with a slight design modification or element change, and that's what gets licensed. The intellectual property part is a little bit of the confusing part, because if it does have a patent, isn't different enough than what exists in the marketplace. There's no really truly different enough. I feel that that part of patents is very black and white. Is it different? Can you explain it differently? Yes. And you're not using the existing patent to get there, then it's different enough, right? That's black and white. But if you're using the existing intellectual property in a way that's covered in the patent, then more than likely you'll have to pay the existing inventor a royalty. But if it's a great product, it's a great innovation, and it gets licensed, it's worth it to have that product in the market making money for both of you. And so, Christopher, I hope that kind of helps with your modification, because that's most of what I see licensing deals as, is kind of design element changes to an existing product. Now, I guess I have to step back because I'm reading your question a little bit differently, because you said new design elements. And if you're looking at it with aesthetics, then aesthetics is a different thing, because if you're just changing how it looks, those are licensing deals too. I see those also. They happen often. Companies don't shy away from them because they feel if the design change in terms of aesthetics or looks change the product, then it makes it so people want to buy it. So, those I wouldn't shy away from them either. So, Christopher, I hope that helps answer your question. If you have any kind of follow-up information, definitely let us know, and I'd love to answer that for you. David said, hello, proof of concept prototype essential to get a company interested in a licensing deal? Yes and no. And I know that Warren Tuttle had just put out a book, and he, talks about how you have to have a prototype. You have to have a prototype to get a licensing deal. And, I agree with him in some way, but then also I will contradict him in the fact that, I've seen licensing deals that don't take a prototype to get the deal closed. Or another point is, I've seen where inventors use all right, they look at the prototype and they figure out that it's very expensive to build a prototype. And they want to see if there's demand out there before they spend, $3 grand, $4 grand, $5 grand on a prototype. And so they'll do a 3D animation. And that 3D animation, they would then be able to show a company, and they'd say, yes, we're interested, right? And so David, when you're looking at a project, you have to take it case by case. It's not a blanket statement. Proof of concept prototypes for products that are like completely new innovation where people wouldn't necessarily know if it works or not, then yeah, you usually need proof of concept. I see a lot of the time in the tool industry. Oh, excuse me. Get these yawns out, get it rolling. In the tool industry, I see very often companies come back and say, we love this concept, but we need to understand how it works in reality. And so, I can't give that a black and white answer. Yes, it's essential to get a deal. No, it's not. I've seen tons of people get licensing deals based off of a very nice drawing or pictures that have been photoshopped together to make it look like it works. But I will tell you, with things that are very functional that people wouldn't necessarily understand if it works or not, usually need a prototype, but you can get away with showing a concept video to get interest. Once you get interest, then you can invest in the prototype or the full-blown prototype once you get to that point. And so that's why I jump on the fence and say, here's the gray area of it, but it's project specific. So once you kind of figure out, all right, my prototype is not too expensive to make, then I'd make it. Like it does help get licensing deals closed. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. So David, I hope that helps get that answered. Pilar Thompson, have you ever licensed a product for the auto industry? I haven't. Well, so it depends. Can you do a follow-up message on this? If you're talking auto industry, are you speaking about like to auto manufacturers, GM, Ford, Chrysler, BMW, Mercedes? You can see it, you can tell I'm from Michigan. I give the big three first. And so when you say auto industry, I need clarity, because auto industry is actually very hard to license into if you're going straight to manufacturer. Aftermarket products are very easy. When I say very easy, people hate me when I say that. It's an easy industry to license to when it's aftermarket products. Straight direct to automakers, they don't like doing that, and they will fight tooth and nail to make it so that that doesn't happen. And so if you're going that direction and want to license directly to companies like the big three, you would need to get a license. You'd need to get full-blown patents, functional prototypes. You need to invest a lot more in a product before you go that direction. So do type in some clarity. That'll help with a little bit more info I can fill in. Chris, do you have a lot of experience in kitchen products? Yes, I do. Quite a bit of experience in kitchen products. Chris did a follow-up. Utensils, actually, I have a utility patent on a set of related products. Yeah, kitchen categories, actually probably where I've coached the most people on licensing deals. And I have three products that I license there. And then I have a commercial kitchen, or essentially a hospitality product. It's in the same vein, but different sets of companies. And I've licensed a product there too. So yeah, tons of experience there. It's a very fascinating industry. And to like give you big picture on it, I think, or I consider there's like a big five for licensing products: houseware, which is kitchen, organizational. There's quite a bit that fits under this category: houseware, hardware, pet, novelty, gift and seasonal, and toy. These five categories is where most licensing deals happen. And like, I want to like draw a line down the middle of the screen and say, all right, you have these 5 that where most licensing deals happen. And so I see the most volume of deals that come through in the space. But on the other side, less licensing deals happen, but there's less competition because most inventors stick to these 5 categories where licensing deals happen a lot. And so like people need to figure out their balance of space. Is, do you want less competition but less deals happen, or do you want more competition but more deals, more competition and more deals? And with a kitchen product space, you know, they like having patents. They don't need to have them. They are very open. When you call a company, they know what you're looking for. They know the conversation that you want to have, and they have specific people that take care of that. So Chris, when you call up, let's say Norpro, good company, they're very open to innovation. Grand Fusion, another great company that's open to innovation. You call them up or go on their website, and they have specific portals, like Grand Fusion has a portal to pitch their products to them directly. And you would submit your product through that. They review it and they get back to you. They're great at getting back to you. Both these companies are great at getting back to you. And so I would pitch in this space, especially if you've got a patent that's granted. It's a lot of fun to pitch there. There's just a lot of deals that happen. It's a quick moving industry. Most of your products are like 3 to 7 years on their life, for how long they stay in the market and make money. So they're not like a big long-term play. I mean, there are some what's called evergreen products, and essentially they cycle back. I've never yawned so much before 8:30 in my life. Must have been some of my 8. But there's, you know, the product cycle. It's a 3 to 7 year cycle typically. Evergreen products usually go to 10 years or so. Those do happen, not as often. But I hope, Chris, that kind of gives you an idea of kitchen industry, how to work there. And also they like product demonstrations. If you have prototypes, they love that. 30 to 60-second video. Pitch that to them. They'll review it. They'll review it internally, and they'll get back to you with either feedback or no thank you. And so that is how I would approach the houseware industry with your utensil product. Next question. David, I spoke with you briefly on LinkedIn. Okay. David, I spoke with you briefly on LinkedIn. What's your LinkedIn strategy for getting into companies? Cold calls didn't work for me. Contacting big companies. Thank you. I'm doing a product in the kitchen and small appliance industry. You know, the strategy that I use is I like to put I like to reach out. I don't like to go in and just pitch my product, right? Like the way that I feel about people that just come in hard and pitching, it's like, for example, if you walked onto a car dealership and the salesman came up to you and said, hey, would you like to buy this car? Right? And you're like, oh, no, I haven't looked at it. I haven't seen it. They're asking for the sale too soon. And that's what a lot of people do when they're pitching is they come out hard and fast. They want to show their product. And so they just pitch it right away. And the other person's like, whoa, like, I don't know you. What? And obviously they kind of understand what it is that you're trying to do. But I like to create a conversation, a little bit of a relationship. And so the way that I handle it is introduction. I just message them. I say, hi, Bob, my name is David Fido. I'm a product developer. I'm reaching out to see if you look at new products. And sometimes you don't get a response. So usually a week later, I'll do a follow-up email and say, hey, Bob, I know I reached out last week, but I was just following up to see if you and your company look at new products. I have something that fits within your product category. And so I would do these follow-ups, but I mean, when you say cold calling didn't work for me, how many times did you call companies? Because what I find a lot of people do is they call a company and they don't get a response. So then they stamp it, calling didn't work for me. And once you call a company, like I would say 10 to 12 times, and you're not getting in, then yeah, that's when I would say, cold calling that company didn't work. But, it's those that stamp it as it didn't work when they call one time. Call each company 10 times over an 8-week period. And then you can say cold calling didn't work for me, because cold calling, it's still the best way to get in. It's still I'm not going to say it's the fastest. It's the best way to get products licensed. And that's just from experience from myself and my students. So I would try to get it through cold calling. You build relationships, you build connections, they talk to you, you're a human being. They respect that more than just a message through LinkedIn. So I would continue to call. I would put the appropriate effort towards it, getting 10 to 12 calls in before you kind of call that dead and say LinkedIn's going to be my option. A lot of people like LinkedIn because it's a lot safer, it's a lot more comfortable. You can just kind of sit back and message people. And so I would try to continue to call, because it increases your probability of actually licensing a product. But if and remember, this is half joking, if it's not your intention to license products, which I know it is, but like you're trying to increase your probability of success. And that's why I say rely on calling. It's more successful. Also, even with their submission portals, if you're submitting through their submission portal, submit to their submission portal and say, hi, my name is David Fidowa. I'm reaching out to see if you guys look at new products. And then just see if anybody responds. Some of those submission portals are black holes where nothing gets answered. You're just sending it into an email box that nobody sees. And so that's where I think, I found success was that I got people to respond to me. I got an email address. I started a conversation before I started pitching, right? I turned myself into a human, and I respected them as a human being by asking them if it's okay that I can pitch to them. And they're like, hey, this inventor is respectful. I'm going to work with that person, or I'd like to work with that person, instead of the ones that just kind of like hit you with a hard pitch. I don't think that's effective. I mean, you get in, you get an answer, but it's not the answer you usually want. And that's why I try to coach people on getting the right answer, which is yes. So I hope that helped. If you do have more questions, keep typing them in. Ray said, I'd like to tell everyone on the web Zoom that Dave is a very honest and caring person. Thank you, Ray. I am working for him. Thank you, Ray. I do appreciate that. Dave, how long has he had a follow-up question? Dave, how long does fitness product go for? Man, I think they're still selling the Thigh Master. You know what I mean? Like there's some products that stick around, but there's some, there's some products, and this is just me pulling stuff out of my brain. The shake weight, that was a flash in the pan. I don't even think that thing lasted 6 months, but it was very gimmicky. And so if your product is not gimmicky, then, and it's impactful and it can sell and do what people want it to do, then yeah. You get this evergreen product that can last the life of the patent and beyond. And so that's where the fitness industry, right? That's not in the big five. That's where it has a lot of staying power, because Ray is working on a fitness product and he's outside the big five category. So he's in where there's less competition, but there's less licensing deals. And a lot of times they're looking for, do you have a functional prototype? Like when you get interest in it, they're going to come back and say, this is interesting. Let's have a conversation. And in that conversation, they're probably going to ask for a prototype, right? And so that'll be a step once you get to that point. Kevin said, isn't NDA worth the paper it's written on? Depends what attorney you ask. So, and you know what I actually really think? It's who's the person signing it. Because the person signing it, and obviously realize I'm not an attorney, I'm not here to give legal advice, but it's NDAs, their jurisdiction a lot of the times is state by state. And so if you go from state to another state, there's things that just don't necessarily apply in an NDA. You know, I've heard of people in court cases where NDAs were signed, but they were never even brought up. But a lot of companies will not sign a strong NDA. And realize this is industry specific. Software category does a lot more with NDAs. And so if you're in the software space, know that NDAs are much more effective and are used much more often. So they use stronger documents that are better prepared than the physical product space. Physical product space, people just sign usually general NDAs. I don't usually, because when I go to a company, I say, company, will you look at my product innovation? They say, yes. And I say, well, will you sign an NDA? They say, here's our NDA. And that NDA is not set up to protect the inventor. Most of the time, companies don't sign inventors NDAs because then every time they get a submission, they have to take all the documents that inventors sign. They've got to send them over to an attorney and pay for an attorney to review the inventor's documents. Right? That becomes a big legal bill. And so companies will actually have their own NDA written up. And a lot of the time it says NDA at the top, but it's really a disclosure agreement saying that you agree to the terms that you are disclosing your product to them on a non-confidential basis. And so that's why I don't really go into that space of like, hey, I need an NDA signed. I rely on my PPAs. I rely on the documents and strength of the things that I've filed with the USPTO. And the fact that I'm working with reputable, respectable companies and individuals that don't want to steal products. And to like dive deeper into this topic, companies aren't set up to steal. They really aren't. And when I say that, you know, some people in this industry think that all companies are set up to steal. And that's more industry specific, I would say. There's some industries where stealing products is more common, but like if you go to most houseware companies, pet, you know, you don't see theft too often of like stealing ideas or ever. And if you do it right, if you're a professional, if you file your PPAs, they feel that it's more business savvy or more a better way to work with you as an individual to pay you 5%, because they figure they'd rather have a friend than a foe, and pay somebody 5% that can bring them more ideas, because they assume that if you can bring them one, that you will bring them more, right? Makes sense. And so a lot of the times when I'm presenting to companies, I ask them, do they take submissions? What is their process for submitting? And then they tell me, and then I follow their process. Once the product is in, a lot of the times when I sign an NDA with a company, the NDA that I sign with them is after I've presented the product. They've seen it and they say, yes, this is something I want to move forward with. We need more details. I say, great. I'd love to send over more details. Let's get an NDA signed. I say, yep. And you can put in reverse engineering clauses. You can put in very strong stuff that makes it so that they can't essentially go into that product once they've seen your initial marketing material. When I say details, like everybody thinks I show them my sell sheet and then that's all I need to show them. No, there's patents, there's prototypes, there's CAD models, there's design work. All of these other things are things that the company or potential licensee wants so that they can move the product forward or drive it forward. And so that's where you as the inventor can get a very strong non-disclosure agreement or NDA signed. And that's most of the time where I do it, because I would rather have a strong NDA and then sign a bunch of ones that are very weak, because they're not going to sign a reverse engineering clause on something that they have never seen before, right? Because if they're working on it, then that NDA would exclude them from the ability to make and manufacture a product that they haven't seen yet. So it's like, all right, this company makes hammers and you're pitching them a hammer idea, but that comes with strings attached that they can't make and design hammers. So it's like, and no company in their right mind, even myself being on the inventor side, would sign that. So Kevin, you'll be able to get yourself stronger NDAs signed by waiting, but I got to throw in the but. Attorneys recommend getting NDAs signed on the front end. I just find from a business side, companies are not usually willing to sign them. And then you're put in this position of, do I want this opportunity going against what my attorney said on not getting an NDA signed? Or do I want to pursue this opportunity and present without the NDA? It's a line that inventors have to find themselves of where they're at. Do they want to pursue the opportunities, or do they want to get stuck in the paperwork or the busyness or the busy red tape of NDAs and signing and protection? So, and like, I know I'm going on and on about this topic, but I think that we can hit a lot of heads here, is that it's also industry specific. Like a lot of times, if you're in like baby category, cosmetics, they're much more common to sign NDAs, but not strong ones, because they're more patent driven. Where houseware, hardware, pet, novelty, gift, those spaces, they're not really big into NDAs. They want to see the product, say yes or no. If they say yes, then they want to sign a strong NDA and work directly with you to make it work. So they're not as big on signing NDAs. They'd rather sign a disclosure agreement on the front end. The disclosure agreement is you're disclosing a product to them on their terms, which whatever those terms are, you have to abide by them, because once that's presented, now you've got to play by their rules. So Kevin, I hope that helps. And do type in follow-ups if you have them. Joe, thanks for coming on. You said, what was the big five again? I'm going to go slow so everybody can write them down if they want. Houseware, hardware, novelty, gift, and I put seasonal in there too. Pet, and toy. That's where most licensing deals happen. Cool. Let me check in the system here for some more questions. Probably gonna end up like playing this from somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't find the chat. Hi, Mike from Canada. Okay, cool. Issue for me is that I have a few big companies like KitchenAid, Samsung, GE, submission portals, and many small companies, half of which are taking products directly from China to sell. So for me, there are a bit shade danger of getting the idea stolen. Not sure though. Okay, so big companies like Samsung, GE, they have submission portals, but usually those submission portals, and this includes Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, a lot of these companies have these submission portals of like, we look at ideas, or we're an open innovation company, which is, depends on your definition of open innovation, is not necessarily the case. And reason being is that their open innovation program is they want to look at products that are usually manufactured on the shelf, selling around $1 million worth a year. And so they can look at that product and say, all right, is that a company we want to acquire and bring that product into our product line? They don't want to deal with or work with inventors that have a product concept or even prototypes and all that. Like, they want fully manufactured. So when they get to this size where it's like conglomerate, over 100 million, usually sometimes getting closer to like 500 million or more, they more so buy products that are on the market selling well, where the mid-sized companies, they're the ones that license innovation. Small products or small companies that are buying stuff off Alibaba and reselling it on Amazon, you are correct. Those are not the best companies to license from. But what I'm seeing is those companies are now run by, a small entrepreneur, 1, 2, maybe 5 people, and they're looking for an edge over their competition. And so the cool thing that I've seen is these are direct to consumer businesses. And so when I say that, you have to understand how that works. When you have a traditional business, what they do is they buy a product from a manufacturer and they ship it to a distribution facility. The distribution facility then ships it to a retailer. Everybody takes their cut. And so when you're royalty, you're getting 5%. So let's use a $20 product. And so when you have a $20 product and you're getting 5%, not getting 5% of $20, you're getting 5% of $10 in that scenario, because the company you license to sells it at wholesale to the retailer. And they sell it at $10, the retailer sells it at $20. And so your take is 5% of $10, 50 cents. But when you have direct to consumer companies, they're buying direct from a manufacturer at, let's say, $2. And they're selling direct to consumer at the $20. They have an $18 margin that they're working with. They're selling a much lower volume than going through retail. But what they have is the ability to give you a higher royalty rate. So I'm seeing royalty rates equivalent to 15 to 17. I've even seen a 22% royalty through these companies. They're equivalent, right? You're not saying I'm getting 22% of the $20, but they're saying, we're getting $2 per unit. And so they're getting like $2 per unit instead of 50 cents a unit, or they're getting, $4 per unit. And that's how these direct consumer companies are doing it, because they know that their volume is lower. A lot of them, they'll sell between 100 and 200 units a day. Well, if you're getting $2 a unit, that's $200 a day. And so that adds up to a decent royalty. I mean, it's not millions, but it adds up. And so these direct consumer companies are starting to get big enough to the point where they have enough cash flow and they want something differentiated in the marketplace, that I'm seeing more and more licensing deals come through there that are actually pretty lucrative, and they move quickly. They come to market in 6-month period instead of a 18 to 24 month period. So I would look into some of those, especially I would try to eye up some of the bigger ones, some that are not necessarily like 10 products, but probably like 20 products or more. Because usually if you're getting to 20 products or more, you're probably in like the $1 to $5 million a year in sales. And that gives them enough cash flow to launch a new product. Maybe not necessarily the skill set, because they're used to buying something off the shelf and repackaging and selling it, but it will give you an opportunity, because, and this is something I personally love, because if you license a product with a small company and they're investing in that, they need it to work. When you license a product with a huge $500 million company, they don't need it to work, but the people that are managing that would like it to work, because then they get, promotions, but it's not a need. But when you're licensing to a small entrepreneur that's a $1 to $5 million business, they need your product to kick butt and really grow their entire business. So they put a lot of effort behind it. So don't necessarily look at small companies. I will tell you, like, I've licensed a product with a small company, and then a company that was over $1 billion. At the time when I licensed it, they weren't, but they got bought and conglomerated and into a bigger company. And I make more money off of a licensing deal with smaller companies than I do with the big one, just because how it kind of shook out. And so I wouldn't look at size as a determining factor of how much money you would make, but do be conscious of the fact that these smaller companies might not necessarily have the resources or ability to get your product through that process. So I do hope that helps give you a better idea on how to get that working. Another question from Ray. Ray said, Dave, if you have a utility patent on your product, does that help you get a licensing deal a lot better? From Ray. Yes, it does. It's not imperative. It is not like make or break. Some industries it is. I will say that cosmetics, baby products, those are spaces where it's like the price to get in is a granted patent for the most part. I mean, I've helped students license products without a granted patent. But I mean, that's kind of how it works in those spaces. But like I know Ray had said, earlier, he's in the fitness category. It's not the golden ticket to get in, but it helps, right? Because companies want to invest in products that are protected. I mean, look at it from a business perspective. They're investing sometimes $50, $100, maybe more, $1,000 in your product. And when that's the case, like they want to have some level of protection that will help them get into the market without competitors. So yes, when you get in, they weigh all those options. They put together a spreadsheet and say, this is how much it's going to cost to launch. This is how much it's going to cost per unit. This is our profit margin. This is how much we have to pay the inventor. And it makes us feel warm and fuzzy and safe inside if there's a granted patent on this thing. So Ray, I hope that answers your question. And we'll do last one here tonight. Do you have a top 5 small companies? I do not. And I guess if I have another question come in, just because that was a short one. And Joe, can you actually fill me in a little bit more? Like, what do you mean by top 5 small companies? Are you like in like top 5 small categories for licensing? Where like licensing deals just never happen? I guess give me a little bit more clarity on what you're looking for on that. Because I know we talked about the big 5 earlier in terms of most licensing deals. Small 5 for categories. I mean, that's the thing. Like I coach people on licensing products in the most obscure spaces, where it's like, I didn't even know that there was product categories of people purchasing products, but there are. It goes, I'm trying to think of some like really like weird obscure spaces. I mean, they have like specialty tools that are like used in only certain situations. Like I had a student license a product that was a tool that was only purchased by semi-truck drivers on a certain type of truck. But it was a very helpful tool. Yeah, I guess that racks my brain to go small because, there's so many obscure spaces to get licensing deal. One cool space that I really like is hospitality. Right now it's not doing too well, obviously with COVID going on, but really cool space. Hospitality, the amount of dollars that passes through hospitality is much larger than all of retail combined. And so when I say hospitality, it's like bars, restaurants, hotels, the money that those companies in that industry spends on products is enormous. And so when you can get a hospitality product in that pipeline, it can make a lot of money. So, but yeah, Joe, if you have any more insight on small, let me know. And so let's see here if we have any more questions here. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions, so very cool. I do appreciate everybody coming out. We do live stream these on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. So I appreciate everybody coming out to watch and be a part of our Q&A. You guys make it possible. If you if you do want to book a call or talk to us about helping get your product licensed, we do. Obviously, I coach and teach a lot of people through the process of getting their product license. So I will put a link in the chat here on the Zoom webinar, also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, so that everybody and anybody wants to book a call with us and chat if we're right for you and helping you get your product licensed. Thank you for posting that link in there. Joe had another question, and I'll just do this as the last question. It's okay, no problem. How do you feel about InventRight? I love InventRight. And what makes me different? I am a sole coach. I'm the one and only coach. And so InventRight it's a big company. That's where I started. I was a student there. I licensed my products. I coached there. I coached a lot of students there. And then I split off and started my Invent Tribe. We are a smaller, closer knit group of individuals that, we meet on Monday night, and we have about a dozen to a dozen and a half people. Everybody's on. They can all talk, ask each other questions. So it's just a smaller group. So if you're looking for, I guess, a more specific approach to your project, I guess that's what makes me different is I'm very successful at helping people license their products, and being a smaller organization, I'm able to help people more specifically with their project. So, but how do I feel about InventRight? Love them. Love Stephen, love Andrew, amazing group over there, still friends with a lot of the coaches. And they kick butt. They do what they say they're going to do and help people license their products. So, yep. Thank you, Joe, for the question. And so if anybody is interested in signing up with my group and having me help them, we did put a link in the chat. And so I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Everybody have a great week, great month. We do these monthly, so I will see you all next month. Have a good night.